Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. I just showed a little price action to Jerry, and he may be a little bit dumbfuddled, but right now. But let me tell you, things are moving in certain sectors. Jerry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I decided to bring out my Bitcoin shirt to celebrate the big FU that Bitcoin's giving to the world.
That's it. That's pretty much it. It's also doing that, and it's doing that for the some of the from the TradFi, but hopefully we can all bounce back. And today, before we get into the whole thing about quantum computing and as far as like time frame that this is going to destroy everything, let's just take a moment to appreciate the market that was. Oh, so close. They're so far away since October 6th.
Cook gets around three defenders and then kicks it to another gear. Cook still going.
That sounds good. So we've got today Bitcoin at 88,000, just for posterity. Ethereum was above 3, and now we're down a little bit. And pretty much across the board, everything is down except for Tron. I like Tron. It's one of the best. One of the best. Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron, just saying. Monero up 14% for over 7. That's pretty great. I guess people are into privacy now all of a sudden. No, I'm just kidding. It's not all of a sudden. People love it. Canton up 45%. I have no idea what that is. And of course, somebody in the comments will tell me, and what the heck is this? Midnight is up 37% in 24 hours. So congratulations to all the midnight airdroppees. That's quite a bit of a rally. And actually, this is one of the few altcoin projects that haven't totally collapsed on itself. It came out ripping to go at 2 cents, jumped all the way to 8 cents, and then went down to 4. Now here we are back again at all-time highs. Jerry, do you do anything with Midnight? I know this is essentially a partnership with the Cardano Foundation, I believe, but there was a huge airdrop for all types of different altcoins.
Yeah, I participated in the Glacier drop, as well as a subsequent program they had called the Scavenger Mine, and I did both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not participate in that one. I just didn't want to go through with it. I had Peyton Big Pay on, and he explained to everybody how they could claim and how they could do it. And actually, everybody, if you're like, man, Rob, what a jerk, you should have participated in that. On the bright side, because I didn't participate in that, all of my tokens went to you guys. So you're welcome. Anyhow, before we get into this whole discussion about quantum computing and if we're 2 years away from a disaster, which we could be, we could be, and it could be even less than that, and Bitcoin could really get really crushed. Before we talk about that, there was a story we talked about yesterday, Jerry. It was about Tom Lee and his outlook for, his price predictions for 2025, Bitcoin to 250K. Then it came out, he's like, maybe it'll be 150K. And then, of course, now next Q1, he was talking about January of 2026, like it'll be a little bit bumpy, but it'd be a pretty good rally above or close to all-time highs. And then his company, Fundstrat, came out and said, no, that's not what we believe. Sean Farrell, head of digital asset strategy at Fundstrat, says, well, that's Tom Lee, and he's obviously CEO, but we all believe the base case is Bitcoin to 60 to 65K, ETH to 1,800 to 2,000, and Solana $50 to $75, which kind of contradicts what Tom Lee is saying, which is essentially everything's undervalued, which is true. But I want to get your take on this. Is this like a Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan point, where like you got the head of an operation going, I see it this way, and the whole other business itself is like, no, we see it this way. In this case, Jamie Dimon was saying that Bitcoin is trash and all crypto is nonsense, yet they're using Ethereum for a money market, and they're looking to use Bitcoin as collateral for loans. And now we've got Tom Lee going, Bitcoin's going to be, back to all-time highs in Q1, and had some pretty bullish type of announcements. But then Fundstrat, his company, is like, new 60 to 65K, and then Ethereum below 1,800. Is that just is that manipulation, or is that somebody saying, hey, you know, I'm just lying to people? Or is this just like, again, a Jamie Dimon moment?
Well, it's obvious that there is a disconnect between the CEO and his personal views of the direction of the market and the analyst who's actually submitting a document to subscribers, right? These people
Right.
pay Fundstrat for Fundstrat's advice. So there is obviously a disconnect. Now, if I take the totality of what I understand about Tom Lee, he has been a perma-bull from day one based
True.
off of a couple of very key fundamentals, and that is the scarcity element and his demographic view of the rollover of wealth from the boomers to the Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Ys, right? This
Yeah.
great wealth transfer that's kind of slowly starting to accelerate and pick up ground as more and more and more of the boomers, unfortunately, are passing away and leaving that wealth to the younger generations.
Yeah, makes sense to me. So, yeah, I see it. There is a disconnect, that is for sure, between, say, like the top of the chain, Tom Lee, and the rest of the company. But you know, some people, I just wanted to, because when I first read that, I read, I'm like, man, that's a little bit of it's an oddball thing to say, and I was pretty negative on it. But then, as I looked into it and read it, and you know, he said that, you know, just like 2-3 weeks ago, or yeah, roughly 2-3 weeks ago, I think it was at the Bitcoin conference, he said that how vastly undervalued Ethereum is, and then his company comes out and says, okay, our price target is this. So even though you say it's undervalued, it can be undervalued, but your price target is like, look, it's undervalued and that sucks. And just like you said, Tom Lee's a perma-bull, and he's going to say that things are undervalued, even though he thinks, okay, it's undervalued, but it's still going to go to this. And I can't stop that. There's a problem with liquidity. There's a problem with the, you know, the macro. There's a problem with this. That's just pretty much how it is. Anyhow, just wanted to get your take on that, Jerry. Thank you. Now let's talk about a little quantum computing and the inevitable collapse of Bitcoin. So this was actually a video that I shared at the very end of the show yesterday. I urge everybody to take a listen to it. You got Preston Pish, and he is here with Charles Edwards from Capital Investment. Preston Pish, and what they were talking about was just how spooked that Charles is about quantum computing. And when I first hear this, I always think it's like ridiculous and it's kind of like for hype. And I'm like, I never really paid attention to it. But I listened to this whole interview, and it's about, I think it's like 45 minutes long. And it got me to thinking, like, maybe Charles is right. And there's a lot of things that he says was right. And I wanted everybody to listen to it, and then we can talk about it today. But I wanted to go over some things about quantum computing and how this all works. I'm gonna try to go through this as fast as possible so you guys can just ask me and Jerry questions. So first of all, that's what a quantum computer looks like. It's wacky, it looks different, but apparently it's gonna change everything. And there are top uses for quantum computing, materials and chemistry simulation. I know AstraZeneca is actually the pharmaceutical company and is using that to find new medications. And of course, that's good for their bottom line as they pump massive amounts of meds into the American and world population, and they probably don't need it. Optimization of logistics, shipping around supply chain, anything you think of. Cryptography and security, which we'll talk about, and then machine learning and AI acceleration. And I think if you can piggyback quantum computing and it can move forward at a very quick pace of the movement that is artificial intelligence and how well it's growing, how fast it's growing. If you can use both in tandem, then all these things that we're talking about can actually move even much, much quicker. The problem is getting quantum computing up to speed and what it can do, because it's very difficult. And the next one, as Jerry fully knows, as far as like AI acceleration, can we really get artificial intelligence to go any faster than what it is? And before I move on, Jerry, just talk to us real quick. Tell us some of the problems that are going on with artificial intelligence to get us up to speed to where we want to be, to like have it like, I don't know, the master overlords of the world that is artificial intelligence. But what is stopping it right now from really just blowing it out of the water and taking all the jobs?
Well, you know, okay. the advancements in the innovation that is artificial intelligence are exponentially being affected, right? So what took 20 minutes yesterday is taking 5 minutes today, right? And what are limiting factors in that chain of acceleration, right? When does Moore's law go out the window? When do these other effects come into place? It's really a matter of the data, electricity, and the variations of silicone used. Now, that is all in one particular, we'll call it trough, right? One bucket. And that bucket is the bucket of ones and zero, a very binary element of processing info and data and things of that nature. Quantum turns all of that on its head, because quantum literally is a brand new process for computation, right? You still need electricity. You need a lot of it. And the way it processes, I mean, so you still need chips, you need silicon, but the way it processes, it's not doing 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 super fast in parallel over 35 cores, or I mean, sorry, not 35, 36 cores, 72 cores, you know, some even number. It's actually, if you go look at it, it's really interesting. It's like doing a 360-degree processing, which in 3D modeling, which is like a globe as opposed to a line. And so how this paradigm shift, I think there is so much speculation with very little fact that there's going to be all kinds of very common sense, practical things that sound right once you understand a little bit of the stuff, but there's still so much mystery. I don't know, right? So I'm sitting back and watching. So the threat that was discussed in that video that you asked me to go take a look at, I thought to myself, okay, there's an element of all of this that makes a lot of sense. There are parts of this that I'm thinking to myself, the threat that they're explaining is actually a much larger threat to global systems than little systems like Bitcoin, right? For instance, if you take a look at the real estate market, which is worth mega trillions, versus Bitcoin's 3 trillion, which one would an attacker want to exploit? Well, obviously the one where they have the most gain. And so I started thinking about this, and I started thinking, we're hearing these threats, but the fixes and the patches and the workarounds and the security measures to implement around these maybe are being done, but they're not being broadcasted. So I am absolutely certain that people who have a lot to lose are spending time and money to safeguard against this particular quote unquote threat. If that makes any sense. I don't know if I made any sense in my
that makes sense.
Going through my mind.
Yeah, so a couple of things you said there. Facts, we need to talk about those. We need to disseminate from the noise and the signal. And we got to see what is real and what is just out there being hyped.
There you go, well said.
And like one of these things Jupiter says is quantum flight equals Y2K part 2. If you're old, you know what Y2K is. Y2K back in the day was when everything was going to be upgraded, because when computer programmers use everything for dates and times, they didn't just use like October 1st, 1985, it was 10/1/85. And when it went to 2000, they thought it was going to screw everything up, and that all of the computer systems would actually go under and it would stop because 00 would just reset everything. And that didn't actually happen. And actually, I remember that night because I was working an overnight shift at the ER, and I was like, nothing actually just got destroyed. This is fantastic. But there's that part. And then just like what you said about like there's some misconceptions about going on. And like, this is one that me and Miss Stasis Rachel, that's a heck of an outfit there. I like that. It's a nice picture. I was also in the assumption, if it can break Bitcoin, then it'll break the entire world financial system, then Peter Schiff wins. And this is what I thought too, but it's not true. This is what it comes down to. And I put this in specifically because of Mark said, because I talked about this on X, and I wanted people's opinions and feedback so I can put together a good show. And he said, hey, if you're worried about quantum computing breaking Bitcoin, why aren't you worried about the billions of bank accounts which are protected by a 4-digit PIN? I think you should examine your agenda or at least be transparent about it. That is, first of all, it's a good statement. Some people would say, well, we got to be transparent about it because are you investing in some kind of like quantum computing type of company? And that's why you're starting to make the noise. I'm personally not, but I will tell you that that's a good question to ask. And I had to ask that. If quantum computers can crack Bitcoin's code, then shouldn't we be worried about all the bank accounts in the world? What about nuclear launch codes? I mean, come on, seriously. We could start, it's like World War III. No, that's not how a quantum computer works. And I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. And this is, again, this is a layman explaining this, so forgive any errors. Please do your own research. I don't have a doctorate in quantum computing. Go figure. This is to make it as simple as possible. Why bank accounts are still safe, especially with two-factor authenticator, as bank logins are not just about encryption. A bank login involves username and passwords, and then on the bank side, the server side, they have limits. And if you try to attack it too much, it'll shut you out. Those lockouts, behavioral monitoring, IP device fingerprinting, which that doesn't matter if you have quantum computing because it can't bypass those controls. So if you have two-factor in action, which I think was what banks really should go to, I have it on both my bank accounts. I think everybody should be using two-factor authentication, not just that crappy SMS. I'm talking about like an authenticator app like from Google. Even if a quantum computer somehow broke a session in, got your password, which would be super simple to do, they'd still need a one-time code, which is hardware key or SMS. They have to get that within 30 seconds and tie it to your device. Quantum computers can't predict or brute force live OTP codes in real time. That's a physical time-based constraint, not a math problem. Math problems, which can be all done at once in quantum computing, that doesn't have anything to do with it as far as with banks and 2FA. And then banks, they already assume that all the passwords are stolen. Mine does. And it makes it a big pain in the A to actually get in. Modern banks operate on password leaks, devices get compromised while they set up these 2FA, fraud protection, traffic limits, human review for large transfers. Quantum computing doesn't remove those layers. So let's be clear. When we talk about quantum computing, we shouldn't be talking about us breaking into banks. This is not the thing. There's other problems, and the big problem, and this is a big, big problem. Well, actually, no. Well, I'll say right now, the real risk is old encrypted data. Now, what kind of old encrypted data is just hanging around? Satoshi's wallet and all the wallets from 2009, 2010. It's cyclic graph, or it's the cryptographic graph that was developed in the very early days. And those are what, 1.8 million Bitcoin just sitting around, and that's a problem. And then lastly, went in the wrong order, but the same thing. What about nuclear codes? Well, it can probably break to get into the codes, but if you to actually launch the nuclear sites, there's a lot of human interaction that goes in, which you would assume would be true. So there's like two people, like in the movies, or there's like the football case that comes in, they have to read it, and Presidente Trump has to do things. So let's be sure that we understand that these are the things that happen. Anyhow, Jerry, thoughts on that? I have said that for years as well. Quantum computing, if you worry about your bank accounts, it's not going to happen, but it looks like no.
Yeah, I'm not really totally sure. I think that there are a lot of old systems that could possibly be at threat, regardless of the specific type of modern technology that is the threat, right? We've all learned about the sophisticated title transfer schemes and scams where people actually initiate a scam digitally and acquire and become the person of record on a land deed that they then sell or mortgage, right? Most of the time it's just get a loan.
Yeah.
But again, can you imagine when we'll call them antiquated legacy systems that were the first world digital platforms are getting disrupted by these modern technologies? I think everybody needs to kind of just understand that threats could come from a lot of different places as technology advances, and just try to be, understand where your individual risks are. What are they? Where are they? And then just, be aware. I think 90% of the people that become victims will be people who are unaware.
unaware, or like you said, you talked about those, and these are things that are going on right now, like hackers will get into the mainframe for the county or the state that you reside in. They will somehow be able to flip over the deed, and they'll be able to take out a second mortgage on your house if it's paid off, and then get the money, and you don't know about it until the bank calls you up. It's like, what the hell happened? Maybe, Jerry, maybe we're thinking about this all wrong. Maybe it's like this. AI and quantum computing is going to force us to be more face-to-face individuals, which means now everything that you have to do, you got to go to the bank. You got to be in person. You got to pay for cash. You got to do it this way because it's not going to allow it. Or, and then this is another thing that people can think about, is that I think as time goes on, we're going to be more lonely because we're just doing too much online. Maybe you're going to be like this guy. Japanese man earns $80,000 per year by renting himself out as a friend to lonely people. Look, there's jobs everywhere, and that could be it. So maybe now it's going to be face to face. But to move on from that, how powerful is quantum computing? Like Jerry was just talking about, because I mean all these different scams. I think scams are going to have a heyday. However, it's not like quantum computing is going to go in the hands of Joe Blow down the street who's a scammer. I think what it's going to do is that it's going to be in the hands of the wrong type of countries. Think North Korea. Look how well they're doing with all the scams that they purvey. Now give them a quantum computer in any way, shape, or form. Good luck. Anyhow, quantum computers are extremely, extremely powerful. Google's Willow quantum chip solved a complex mathematical benchmark, random circuit sampling, in 5 minutes. That would take the best supercomputers, and I think it's all supercomputers all around the world, 10 septillion years. I believe that's more than a quadrillion. I'm just going to guess there. That's a lot of time. So that quantum computer from Google was able to break a complex benchmark problem in 5 minutes. That would take forever for a supercomputer. So the days are coming, and it's something to be worried about. Let's just talk about what this is and if there is a big problem. So first of all, like Jerry was talking about, zeros and ones and zeros. Classic computers just do 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. With quantum computing, they do it all at once. There's this thing called qubits. And this whole thing with qubits, we'll get into the logical and the physical, but they can be in multiple states at once. That's why, like, if you take a look at this, you're like, why the hell is this created like that? It's just so weird because it's in multiple states that these qubits can be in. And they could be spinning, they could be magnetic, there could be a superposition, entanglement, and there's this interference between these qubits, and it's able to do it. That's going to sound confusing. Let's just go to it. There's two types of qubits. There's a physical and there's logical. Physical, you can just creating more physical and more physical and more physical. And those will create the logical qubits. So what the hell are those? So a physical qubit is a real object that behaves according to quantum mechanics. So it's inside these things. Depending on the technology, and this qubit, this physical thing, could be a superconducting electrical circuit. It could be a trapped ion, an electrical spin, a photon, a deflect in a diamond crystal, whatever that. And that's in there. That's in there. So what makes it? It's got different states. Again, it could be spinning, it could be a photon, it could be whatever, laser. But in some way, shape, or form, this physical part, it creates the physical qubits, which all come together to make these what's called logical qubits, which is right here. So physical qubits, again, you can put in as many as you want to, and you can have 1,000, 10,000, 25,000, but it doesn't matter because as they're moving together in this entanglement between the physical and the logical, that's where all this supercomputer power comes from. Unfortunately, as you have all these different things which are in this unstable state, electrons, photons, defects in diamond crystals and things like that, when you have this going on inside this, you're going to have problems. But if you can get them all to not have so much noise and so much friction and actually be able to work, the logical, again, the difficult one to get, that is what is going to power the whole thing. The problem with it is that you can make as many physical qubits as you want to. Again, photons, diamond crystals, all those things in a semiconductor. But to get to the actual logical one, that's the part that is the most difficult. And the more logical ones that you have, that's what cracks the code. So where are we in that situation? So a physical qubit, and this is just from recent, Microsoft, 56 physical qubits only led to 12 logical qubits. It's not bad. 30 for Microsoft led to only 4. And then Microsoft and Atom Computing, they had 1,200 physical qubits. Again, all those different things in the apparatus, but they could only get 24 logical qubits. It doesn't matter how many physical qubits you have. It has to be these logical qubits to actually make everything work. Google got 101. They got 1 out of the whole thing. IBM, they had 1,121 physical qubits and they had 0 logical ones because they couldn't keep everything in a stable state. There was no real consensus and they couldn't work together. Caltech had 6,100. They had 0 logical. IonQ 36 had 0. So to create even 1 logical qubit, you need hundreds to hundreds of thousands of physical qubits. So when you're hearing this later, and you hear someone say 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 qubits, you now know that those don't mean squat. The only thing that means anything is the logical qubits, not the physical. And that will lead me to my last point. If we're talking about AI and things, and Jerry talked about this, Moore's laws, everything doubles over 12 to 18 months. When we're talking about growth in logical qubits, when did this all start? About 2020, 2021. And the first one, you had like 1 to 3. Up to 2024, we got to about 12 reported by late 2024. And in late 2025, we got 48. So there's a magnitude of growth that you can see happening right there. But really what's happening is you're doubling every year. So if we take the widely cited 24 qubits, logicals, and then the 48 from 2024 to 25, you're doubling every year. Does that make sense? Let me do some quick math. 24 to 40. Okay, I got that one. I doubled it. Roadmaps from companies like Quantinuum, Google, IBM, and newcomers all assume continued progress with targets like 100 logical qubits by 2030. That's a lot. That is a lot, apparently. But here's the question. So you got all these physical, which we don't care about, and you got these logical qubits. How many logical qubits do you need to break Bitcoin's elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC? You need 2,330 logical qubits. And that's not just from me. This was a paper that was put out. This is pretty much what's been established so far. It might be a little bit lower, it might be a little more, but as far as 2,330 qubits needed to break Bitcoin's elliptical curve. These are most leading QC companies expected within 4 years, maybe. Dr. Michael Naring, Dr. Martin Roedler, IonQ, and Dr. Kristen. Okay. So before I move on, was this a big nothing burger, Jerry? What do you think?
I am absolutely in awe of the presentation that you just gave.
Thanks.
No, I really am. And here, a simple person like myself, I understand enough to not be scared. And what I understand is that there are many stakeholders who are very, invested in securing their wealth. And I am absolutely certain they will deploy the capital needed to create the safeguards so that the things that define their wealth do not get taken from them. So, in other words, it's like me. If I were to buy a share of the Mona Lisa, I am not at all concerned about the security measures at the Lou. I'm sure the Lou will handle the security, right? I'm pretty clear about that. So
pretty good assumption, yeah.
Yeah. And so, for me on a fear factor, it's kind of a nothing burger. But we have to understand that technology is going to advance in ways that we have not been prepared for. We didn't necessarily see coming. And it's about how well are we able to educate ourselves, understand where our risks are at, and how do we mitigate those risks to ensure that we continue to keep or grow what we have while being able to pass it on to the people we want to pass it on to. True.
Exactly right. Whatever we can do, right? So this will, well said. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate the compliment. Trust me. So the last part here is, you know, as investors, what we've done, it's about what we don't know. We feel confident in things we know. We understand that there are things that we don't know. The things that'll get us, that'll bite us in the A, is we don't know what we don't know. We don't know these things that are out there. We don't know. So that's why I'm going to give this up to you guys who are listening to the video. Everything that I talk about in this presentation and the links we're going to go over in a little bit, I want you to do as much research as you can on this, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe me and Jerry are wrong. Maybe this is a big deal, but we just didn't dive deep enough into it. So I will just say this for the counterpoint here is I'm going to take a look at, like, I don't want to get blockbustered here. I don't want to wake up one day and all my Bitcoin's gone because some quantum computer came out of nowhere, which it looks like that's not going to happen, but who knows? But, you know, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, I mean, he was talking about quantum computing, and it's amazing how fast he flipped over. In January 2025, he said practical quantum computing is still 15 to 30 years away. That was January 2025. In 3 months, he says, I was wrong about the timeline for quantum. And then just 3 or 4 months later, he says there's an inflection point happening in quantum computing. And then there was a big bet by NVIDIA on quantum. And that took less than 9 months. And then also, as far as like this going down the road, as far as do we have 2 years, do we have 5 years, do we have 10 years? Well, guess what? If we know at some point we're going to have to change the game for Bitcoin a little bit, because quantum computing is inevitable. It's going to happen. If people are going to make money off it, they're going to make it. And if it's going to benefit humanity, they're going to make it, which I like that latter part. But this was actually put out here by Charles Edwards, the gentleman who was talking to Preston Pish. And he says, here's the lead times, because when you have everything in a specific Bitcoin wallet, you're going to have to move it to be quantum resistant. Now, imagine every single person who has Bitcoin in this old style wallet that needs to be quantum proof. Now you got to move roughly 20 million plus, well, except for Satoshi's wallet, right? And for everybody to move that out of their wallet into a quantum compliant wallet, do you know how many transactions that is? He's saying that it's going to take, and this is a very conservative amount. He said it's going to take between 180 days to a full year just to transfer everything, not to change the protocol to be quantum resistant, which we know is going to have to do. This is going to have to be a multi-year process. And actually, in the video that you guys watched with Preston Pish, they even said this could take actually 2 to 3 years, depending on how many wallets, how many transactions. So imagine how much Bitcoin is going to be left. And then the next thing we got to think about, remember the very beginning when I said that the big thing that's actually in risk is the old encrypted data, such as Satoshi's wallet. Since I don't think Satoshi's around, what do we do with that Bitcoin? Because we can't confiscate it, because that would go against the rules that is Bitcoin. We can't shut things down. Are we going to have to move things? It just seems like, because that wallet is an old style wallet, so when these quantum computers come out, this will actually happen. So that's an issue. And I will just say that if you want to do some more research, there is a YouTube video I saw. This is from June 27, 2025. This is from Looking Glass Universe. This young lady here has her PhD in quantum computing, and she got that in 2020. So if anybody's probably legitimate to give you advice, it's definitely not me. It'd probably be her. So I linked this video in the description, and she talks about why she left quantum computing research, even though she has a doctorate in quantum computing research, and she talks about how it's just very slow going, how things aren't happening. On the flip side to that, you got Nick Carter, who said that everything's going to collapse and be awful, and he gives some pretty good reasons why. And lastly, another one from a gentleman Conjoined Chris, who pretty much goes against what Nick Carter is saying. And then, of course, the video that I referenced with Preston and Charles there. And that's it for today. That was a long one, Jerry. Sorry. So if you like today's video, which I don't know, it's kind of nerdy, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now let's get into fun times when you guys ask Jerry a bunch of questions and I ask Jerry those things too. Let's get to it. Okay. What did I miss? Plato says, if quantum computing is as bad as people say, they won't even be able to use Google with any degree of safety. Well, that is one thing, you know, like, because if you don't, Jerry, let me ask you a question. Two things. Do you have your Google account securitized with two-factor authentication? Okay, that's pretty good then. And then if, I was gonna say like with this one, do you think that these quantum computers will be out there just busting down the privacy of the individual person? Or what do you think that the worst and the most deplorable of us will use quantum computing for? Because I remember in the beginning you said it's hacks and scams, but what's the worst scenario you can think of?
Unfortunately, the human race has a long-standing tradition of a small segment of the population exploiting unprepared, unsecured elements of the population. And I don't think that's ever going to change regardless of what technologies are at play, right? So there is always going to be those who are going to want to take from those who have. And as shitty as that is to say, I think it's safe to say that that will continue on into the future. And so I think all legacy systems that were built with one set of parameters as safeguards, once those parameters are easily taken down, those barriers or those fences or those walls are broken through, those that haven't upgraded will be exploited. And I think there's just too many incentives for those who are willing to take the risk to commit those crimes. I just see it being too much to go after. They're like a lot of people, they're going to find those weak spots in our systems and they're going to exploit them. And so the thing that we need to do is upgrade, stay up to date, stay educated, continue to be diligent. I mean, it's really, I don't know if I can put it any better than that.
Yeah, there's this thing that they talked about in this report. It was called Q Day, which would be Quantum Computing Day, when it goes live and is used by bad actors, whether that be a bad country, whoever, fill in the blank of a bad country you think is bad. That could be America, that could be North Korea, that could be China, whatever. And they're going to be able to use that to get and find out data and information about the other country's holdings, the other country's apparatus for war, how they do things, and any kind of like unknown information that are hidden in between these different databases. So like if this is an information world and you have quantum computing which can hack a lot of things, that's something. But just like we talked about with that two-factor authenticator, wouldn't that be funny if you got Presidente Trump and he's like, hey, I need these nuclear launch codes, go get my phone, I've got to do this quick. But yeah, maybe that'll be the big thing. Let's see. Hey, Rod, can you go over ETH risk levels? Absolutely not. Let's see. What else we got? Smash it, Dan fam. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. So risk levels, which are not a bad way to look at things. Jerry, what's the least risky crypto out there you think you can buy?
Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin, as far as risk levels, you're right, is 0.41. It's as far as risk level because it's fallen so far. But, Cardano is only 0.295 as far as risk levels go.
Interesting.
So, just saying. Ethereum is 0.558. So what is that? Well, that's hovering around the $3,000 mark. So 0.558 is a good one. Now, if you guys would like access to this and all the different cryptos that we have today, plus even risk levels on specific stocks, S&P 500. Wow, S&P 500, the risk level is 0.79. Take a look at this, which nobody cares about, I think. 6834. Wow, it's almost at 0.8 risks. Yeah, if you'd like to access that, it's link in the description. A lot of stuff is on here is free. I think the risk levels are not, but yeah, that's it. Jerry used the rude word. That's okay. Freedom of speech here, right? Let's see. Jupiter says, someone said I like Jerry's Bitcoin shirt, which it is nice. Very nice, very pressed well, not a wrinkle, very good. Jupiter says, go to Strategies merch page on their site for some nice bright orange Bitcoin swag. Let me check that out. Let's see. We're all exploited. Ryan Vision Tech says, the node software will be quantum hard and the network will take care of Satoshi's old coins. I could rewrite Bitcoin Core in 2 minutes to move Satoshi's coins, but it'll be on a wet node network. And that's the thing. If we move it, then who has access to it? What if Satoshi really is still around? He's like, hey, that was my retirement. What the hell happened? It's a difficult situation. Let's see. Rob needs a quantum computer reading the chat looking for sensible comments. Well, yeah. Buggy says, hey, Rob, I'd love you to link your video on taking your two-factor Google codes out of the cloud. I don't know if you ever saw this one, Jerry. This was 2FA. Where I talked about that if you have Gmail and you use the Google Authenticator, did you know that they have backup codes in your email account? That there's like 10 of them that you can use if you lose your authenticator. The problem is
your authenticator. Yes, I did know that.
Yeah. The problem is if somebody hacks your phone, does like a SIM swap, they get access to your Gmail. Guess what they get access to? Your two-factor authentication codes. So I think that
vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a vulnerability. But the thing is what can you do with 2FA codes? Like I can use that with my bank. I mean, my bank account is so anemic, it doesn't matter anyhow, because I put everything into Bitcoin and real estate and some stocks. So I don't think that'd be the big issue. It would be an issue on the exchanges, right?
Wow.
But it's okay because we follow the rules. We don't leave things on exchanges. We use our cold storage wallet for most things. Jerry's got a nice ledger. Oh, and there was one.
I use a treasure.
Did you, Bugsy, I'll try to find that in a second. But did you know Quantum that Trezor has a quantum ready hardware wallet? Yeah, that's right. So it's very nice. Jerry, is that what you got?
No.
It's okay.
I did see the advertisement though.
It's okay. So people say, that's it. That's all we need. No. It's what this is when the crypto sphere and whatever coins that you, or altcoins that you have and Bitcoin, if you have it, Bitcoin and Trezor, which are fine. When they do upgrade to quantum resistance, to be fully quantum resistance, that means that Trezor is the only wallet available to handle a new quantum resistant type of Bitcoin or altcoin. That does not protect you if the actual chain doesn't change things. So it's just held marketing, great marketing, but it doesn't do much more for you.
Exactly. The first thing that came to my mind, Rob, was Snapple.com.
What's Snapple.com?
Remember the iced tea company that did a separate name change to .com in 1998, and their stock went up 45%?
Jesus. That was the .com era, right?
Yeah.
I remember
but it
that.
Was exactly the same thing. It was a marketing ploy to the new hot thing that had completely taken over the, world of investing.com. The .com boom.
Oh, yeah. Real quick. Bugsy, this is the thread right here. Where I show you in my account what these codes are. Well, that's actually the 2FA. But yeah, when I went into my into my Google account, it had these backup codes for my two-factor authenticator. I was like, damn it, that's not what I wanted. What I'll do is, let's just put this in the, I'll put that in the comments, and then you can get it there. And I'll put this in the, description, so anybody who's watching the replay can do it. Oh, again, here's the slides that we went over for the quantum presentation, and here's the 2FA on X post. You need to delete those. That's important. All right, getting stuff done, Jerry. Getting stuff done. Let's see. Doge is looking cheap. Hudatola, sorry, I don't allow, or me and YouTube doesn't allow links. Just tell me what it is. I'll do a search for it. Zelensky. Yeah. I thought the timeline for quantum was changed to 4 to 5 years, up to 9 years max. That's what some people are saying. And then that guy, Charles, from Krill, whatever, was saying potentially, and he said, like, that's when it goes to high risk. And he's saying, like, that's why he sold his Bitcoin, or some of it. I don't think he sold all of it. But he said within 2 years, there's still a risk. So he's like, well, I'm not going to wait for that. So he's out. So, yeah. Let's see. Jerry shirt is quantum ready. That's true.
True story.
True story.
Deron Wilkes had a question up there. I'd love to be able to respond to that.
What
Jerry,
is it?
Noisy question.
Oh, Jerry knows a question.
Yeah.
So, what percentage of is crypto?
For a very long time, I'd say from 2017 to 2021, it was all crypto, every single penny. And then we had that big run up, and I took some off the table and bought some property. And through the course of as the market crypto continued to collapse, I took little bits and pieces out and started my new Roth IRA in Schwab, an investment account here and there. And so today, with the declining crypto market and the fact that real estate has gone up here in Costa Rica, and I've made some plays in the AI world in my brokerage account, I'm sitting at about 50-50. So 50% stocks and real estate, 50% crypto. But I'll tell you, my goal is to literally get down to only holding Bitcoin in my crypto account and having everything else supply me a revenue stream like dividends and yield and things of that nature, so that I can supplement my Social Security and retirement account. Because eventually I would like to live in shorts and flip-flops and just check to see how good the tomatoes are doing, and is the
Sure, that's what you do now. You don't have tomatoes. Whatever. Good info. Good info. Let's see. Brian says the same way Bitcoin, Satoshi's vision. Remember that?
Yeah.
9 cent coin? Yeah. Could not steal Satoshi coins. Old non-upgraded Bitcoin nodes will be ineffective. Non-compliant left behind when the network participants move to use quantum hardened core software. So we'll see. Let's see.
Peter John. Hey, Rob and Jerry, any chance of a short-lived counter trend relief rally to a macro lower high for Bitcoin and Ethereum? You know what's really interesting? I really honestly believe that markets are the price action in markets are direct results of the world's debt market being able to refinance debt easily, or is it harder or is it easier? And as we're seeing, we're getting into that point where the next 12 months is really going to be telling, in that so much of the COVID era debt that was acquired at extremely low rates, most of it at like zero, is coming to the point where it's having to be refinanced. And obviously we know rates are not at zero, right? And so how much of that debt rollover is going to spill into the markets? Now, that's not to say that's not the only liquidity available to come in and prop up risk markets, but for the most part, it's the majority, right? It is the majority of money that we want infused in the liquidity cycle. So what is Japan doing with their prime rate? What is the US Fed doing with their prime rate? And so to answer specifically your question, I think it's going to be rate dependent. And so if we see some more quantitative easing from our US Fed, and we see a relaxed state in Japan so that carry trade can continue to be prosperous, I think that we can see liquidity come into our markets and we get an uptick. If it doesn't, I think things run stagnant for a while in only specific assets that have specific revenue or capital expansion metrics are the ones that'll enjoy, not the whole market.
Yeah, not the whole market. Like they say, like some people say, not the whole market's going to blow up, and there's different backstops and problems. Like some people even say, like it's a rolling recession, stuff like that. I don't know if that's how.
Yeah, that whole definition of recession is interesting, right? Two
Whatever.
quarters of reduced GDP growth. Well,
whatever they want to say, Jerry. Whatever they want to say.
Yeah, and the fact that they change requirements for definitions is also puzzling. So yeah, stay tuned in, folks, for the next digital asset news, and you'll be informed.
Exactly. Something. Isn't it some 22 trillion needs to be refinanced next year? 22 trillion sounds about right. That's what we do. That's what we do in America. We're #1 in obesity, diabetes, and debt. You're welcome. Let's see. Rather build your treasure in the kingdom of heaven where Bitcoin is not rust and robbers do not steal. How great would that be?
Go, Jason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Copy that. And I think we did it, Jerry. We answered all the questions. We're champions.
Can I make a statement to the audience at large real quick?
Sure.
Because I'm not on with you every day, Rob. And I won't be on with you again till after the holiday, after the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
I hope everyone has a safe and healthy and happy time of year, regardless of what political beliefs you have or what religious standing you have. I hope that you're all happy and healthy and enjoying the actual things that matter, right? Not necessarily the balance of your portfolio, but the quality of the relationships that you have in your life. And so for all of you that have been so supportive of me, and even those that have been my detractors, I wish you an incredible holiday season.
Yep. I have to echo that sentiment. And remember, if Bitcoin is freedom, better use it for what it was designed for. So get out there and enjoy life, because we only got a finite amount of time. And that's it for today. So look, everybody, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. We'll see you next week, but that's it. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. We'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.